Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you. I hope you guys are having a great conference. What a speaker lineup. My goodness, this is an amazing conference. You guys came to a great breakout session. If you are interested in making more sales, I've been teaching sales professionally now for a little over 20 years. I've had the privilege of speaking all over the world. And I'm excited to be with all of you here tonight. How to sell in challenging times, and what a unique time that we have in our history right now. Unprecedented times in our history, and yet there are many things that we can be doing to increase our sales results. And so, what we're going to cover tonight are some of my favorite sales increasing ideas. These are ideas that I'm using in my own business to increase my sales results. I want to take a moment and acknowledge all of you for being here. And if you're right-handed, I want you to take your right hand. If you're left-handed, I want you to take your left hand. I want you to pat yourself on the back and tell yourself, great job for being in class today. You know, I'm really big into self-acknowledgement. And one of the things that I'm going to talk to you guys about tonight is being your number one cheerleader. Now I'm going to give you the psychology behind why that is such a great idea. So great job for being here tonight. We're going to jump right into our program. And I've been selling since 1992. I love learning. I love reading, attending classes like the class that you're in with me right now. I found that there's 3 ways that you can elevate your sales results: inner game, outer game, and action. So if I was coaching you one-on-one, I'd want to work with you on your inner game, which deals with your mindset, your confidence, potentially expanding comfort zones. It's the mental side of selling. The outer game is the how-tos. What you say, when you say it, how you say it. How do you close? How do you generate a lead? How do you set an appointment? How do you do social media? Every how-to technique can be learned. And the third component is action. And that's getting yourself to follow through and do the things that you know that you should be doing in your business. Now, I want you to think about something. How has your action been on your business-related, sales-related activities over the last 30 days? With all of the things going on, with the virus, with the protests, with about anything else that's going on in your personal life, in your professional life, have you been taking the action necessary? And maybe you have, and maybe you haven't. And here's what's great. We're about to get a clean slate. July 1st is the first day of the second half of the year. And so if you have not had the action that you feel that you needed to have, we're about to get this clean slate. And that might be a decision that you make. You know what? Come July 1 or after 4th of July, that first business day after 4th of July, it's like, you know what? I'm going to get back on track and do my daily success habits, the things that make me successful. I want to share with you guys a little bit about my background, how I got connected to this conference. Is I attend Bayside Church, and I've attended Bayside for many years. I've been a guest speaker at Thrive before when it was in person. And so from that relationship, when this conference ended up going virtual, I was asked if I would be a breakout speaker, and I was like, yeah, I would love to be a breakout speaker. So that's how I ended up here today. I was very successful right out of high school. My first job that I ever had right out of high school, I made over $100,000. I didn't make over $100,000 though. I made over 100,000 hamburgers. I was a cook at McDonald's. This is a photo of me when I worked at McDonald's. And if any of you happen to be in Placer County, where I live, this photo is taken in Auburn. I used to work at the Lincoln Way McDonald's in Auburn, California. Now I know that this is an international conference, and you might not know where Auburn is, but that's where this photo was taken. And I was attending community college when I was working at McDonald's, and you're supposed to go for 2 years. I went for 5 years and never graduated. I'm still a couple of units shy of my AA degree. So it's not exactly on the fast track to success. I had no goals, no direction. I was just kind of wandering aimlessly through life. And I experienced a turning point. And my turning point happened when I attended my very first seminar ever. And I was listening to the speaker. And I felt like he was talking directly to me. And I was so inspired by his message that I went to work for him. Now, this is a photo of me working for him. His name is Dante Pirano. It's my first sales job. It's very stylish back then. As you can tell, I had my purple pants and my matching plaid socks. And at this company, I was the bottom producer. And at the end of my first year, I missed quota 2 months in a row. And we had a 3 strikes and you're out rule. So I was told I had 1 more month to hit my quota or I was going to be let go. So if any of you have ever struggled in sales before, or if you're struggling in sales right now, I want you to know that I understand, because that's exactly where I was at when I first got started. So I'm about to lose my job. I don't know how to sell. And I met my first sales mentor, a gentleman named Dr. Donald Moyne. And I received professional sales training for the first time in my life. The next month, the quota was 10,000 in gross sales. I did 10,500. I made quota by 1 sale. The following month, I did 51,000. I went from worst to first in 60 days. And I've never looked back. I've gone on to do millions and millions of dollars in sales. And what I learned from that experience is that selling is a learned skill. I then went to work for Tony Robbins. A lot of you probably have heard of Tony Robbins. I was employed by Tony for 3 years, and then I branched off and started my current company, Lofholm International. We're a global sales training organization, and our mission is to help people make more sales. And the way that I do that is by teaching just really practical, solid sales fundamentals, specific ideas that if you do these things, you will see an increase in your results. I continue to work on my skills, and I ended up doing business with the great Les Brown. Some of you may know that name. This is a photo of Les and I team teaching at one of my seminars. This is Tom Hopkins. Tom is he's like the Michael Jordan of sales training. He and I team taught a webinar together. And ultimately, I ended up getting on the Get Motivated stage. This is the same stage that Zig Ziglar, the famous Zig Ziglar, was on when he was alive. So it's been my career, it's my passion, and I love sharing ideas to help you make more sales. So here's your first breakthrough idea. I want you to really listen to what I'm about to tell you, because this could create a breakthrough for you. This could be a home run of an idea. Now, this is a photo of a Netflix series. You may recognize it. It's called The Pharmacist. And this gentleman here, that's the pharmacist. That's who the Netflix movie series is about. It's a 4-part series, true story, documentary style. And he's just a regular guy, just a regular pharmacist. And his 17-year-old son is tragically killed in a drug deal gone bad in a seedy part of New Orleans. And he, of course, wants to find out who killed his son. It's his son. I mean, we need to get to the bottom of this. And he goes to the police and he's like, we need to find out who killed my son. And in their own way, they essentially say to him, this is not all that uncommon. It's a seedy part of New Orleans, and we're not going to go out of our way to find out who killed your son. They didn't say those exact words, but that's really what they said. And the pharmacist got committed. He got committed to finding out who killed his son. And what he ended up doing, among other things, is he went and got the white pages. Remember the white pages back when we were younger for the phone books? And he knew the street his son was killed on. He went through the white pages and he would highlight people's addresses he found the nearby streets. And he went through the white pages and he found people that lived near where his son was killed. And he called them up one by one by one, like a sales call, except the call went like this. Hi, so-and-so, my name is so-and-so. My son was killed on this street, on this date in the evening. And I want to know, do you know anything about what happened to my son? And then the first person he called said no. And then he called the next person. No. The next person. No, 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 no. This went on for months. Think about that. What would you have done in that situation? This went on for months. After this went on for about 8 months, this one woman, my son was killed on this street at this date at this time. Do you know anything about what happened to my son? She goes, yes, I do. He said, what do you know? She said, I saw it. I saw who killed your son. I know who killed your son. And she testified against him. And that gentleman went to prison. And she risked her own life, because in that community, you snitch on somebody, you're putting your own life in your hands. And she did that because of the pharmacist's commitment, solving the murder of his son. The show goes on, and ultimately the pharmacist takes on Purdue Pharma. Purdue Pharma is the manufacturer of OxyContin. The pharmacist gets legislation changed because of them getting, people addicted to OxyContin. So why am I telling you this story? And what does this have to do with you? And how can this change your life? Well, you see, we all have a Superman or Superwoman side of our personality. There is the kindest version of you. There exists in you the most loving version of you. There is the most compassionate version of you. There's the most understanding. There is the most productive version of you. There is the best prospector in you, the best sales professional in you, the most productive time management version of you. And what I would suggest to you is that with all that's going on in the world right now, with the virus, which has, impacted the whole world, and the protests, which have impacted mostly here in the US, but there's actually, as you probably know, there's protests that are happening all over the world due to Mr. Floyd being killed. What I would suggest to you is perhaps these challenging times cause the Superman side of you to come out of you, the best version of you, to use this as your why, to step up and become the best version of you. Have this be your motivation. And with July 1, which is the first day of the second half of the year, it's, you're going to blink and it's going to be July 1st. It's happening in 2 weeks. And you say, you know what? I'm going to step up. This is a time for me in my life right now to step up for my family, to step up for my clients, to step up for myself. I was talking to a client today, and he owns his own business, and he admitted in his own way that on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning you're playing at your Superman level, he's playing it like a 4. And I was explaining to him, I said, look, you're the owner of the company. You set the whole tone for your organization. I have to show up for my employees. I have to lead from the front. That's how I choose to do it anyway. And I was doing my best to reach him in a way that would cause him to motivate himself to want to step up into his highest level of what he's capable of. So I want to get into some really practical tips with you guys tonight. One of the things that we can do right now is to protect our mindset. I'm going to tell you something you probably already know, that what goes into your mind influences how you think. What you scroll through on social media, what you watch on the news, what you listen to, the videos you watch, the movies you watch, what you put into your mind impacts your mindset, and it impacts how you feel. So I want you to think about the last 30 days. What have you been allowing into your mind? Have you been watching too much Fox News or CNN? Have you been spending too much time on social media? Or have you been doing things to put the positivity, like what we're doing right now? I acknowledge you for being here right now to hear a positive message from me and the other speakers. We're all just going to pour our hearts out and give you everything we got, as if we're talking directly just to you to deliver a message that could change your life. It's something that I learned, and you might have heard this before, but it's a very powerful thought. And it's this: fear and faith can't coexist. Fear and faith can't coexist. You can't think negative and positive at the same time, right? You can't have love and hate at the same time. So if you find yourself in a fearful place, which is one of our least productive states in business, if you find yourself in a fearful place, go to your faith, access your faith, whether that's faith in God, faith in yourself, tap into your faith and allow you to have the best version of you to come out. Because what I'm choosing to do in my life right now with my responsibilities and my family and my employees and my clients and my commitments, I have to produce. I can't be in a fearful, negative spot. I just can't. I have to produce. You know, right now, I'm on this Zoom with you guys right now. I have to produce right now. And when this call's done and I go to my next thing tonight, I have to produce. And when it's time for me to be a dad tonight, I've got to produce. So I got to keep my mindset right to focus on the things that are most important. So on the screen there, it says I'm not the ventilator guy. And you might remember when COVID first came about, and there was this whole discussion about the ventilators. And there's not enough ventilators. And Governor Cuomo was very passionate about it. And there was a whole conversation about ventilators. And what I was telling my clients when that whole conversation was happening is that that's not my job. My job is I'm not the ventilator guy. In other words, it's not my job to solve that problem. There are people that have that job, but that's not my job. So I got to focus on my job. And I got to let the ventilator person focus on that job. And I need to let the politicians, they got to focus on their job. And I got to focus on my job. My job is to be a husband. My job is to be a dad. My job is to run my company. My job is to lead my staff. My job is to lead my clients. And I got to keep my energy on the things that I have control over. And I have to keep my energy on what is my job. So have you been slipping into focusing on things that maybe aren't your job? And maybe it's time to really just take a step back and get really crystal clear. What do I need to be doing right now? You know, there's the old saying, you get what you focus on. So the question is, what is it that you're focusing on? You know, I'm a big believer in this concept called continuous sales improvement. And this is what I live. I work on my skills a little bit each day, a little bit each week, a little bit each month, keep getting better and better. I never feel like I've arrived. I just continue to learn by reading, by listening, I work with coaches. I keep getting better. And, you know, Kobe Bryant had this mindset when he played basketball. He called it the Mamba mentality. And the Mamba mentality means get a little bit better every day. Michael Jordan lived by the same principle. You know, he never felt like, oh, I won MVP, so I don't need to keep getting better. He kept getting better his whole life. And this is how I live my sales career. Even though I've been teaching this content for over 20 years, I've written over 15 books, I've traveled all over the world and lectured, and I've accomplished a lot. And there's still room to grow. There's still room to improve. There's still room for me to get better. Now, this is a photo of my son now. My son's 18 now, but in this photo, he was age 8 or 9. He's obviously dribbling a basketball. This is my son at 14. He's doing a 2-ball drill. From age 8 or 9 to age 14, he kept working on his skills, kept getting better and better. And here he is a much better dribbler in this photo than in this photo. These photos of my son, that's you. That's you. Now, I did a webinar the other day with Pastor Ray. Some of you know Pastor Ray, who's the lead pastor at Bayside Church, the founder there, the founding pastor. And I did a webinar, and I reached out to Bayside and asked if Pastor Ray would come on the webinar, like I'm coming on the Thrive webinar. And he came on my webinar, and he said yes. And I was so grateful that he said yes. It really, really sincerely meant a lot to me that he came on the webinar. And so we were doing an interview, kind of like this, but it was an interview. And I was asking Pastor Ray about mindset. And I said, you know, times are tough right now. You know, and this is before we had all the protesting that was going on. We were just talking mostly about COVID. And I said, obviously, you have all these campuses and people can't meet in person. And I was asking him, how did you deal with that? And what thoughts do you have around mindset? And he said some profound things. The first thing he said was that once he figured out that they weren't going to be able to hold church in person, he said something like, I went into leadership mode. And he just like stepped into his Superman version of himself. That's me talking. And he just, and he said it was very easy for him to go into leadership mode, and they just pivoted, right? It's kind of like turning lemons into lemonade. You get dealt a hand, right? So your church, it's like, okay, people can't meet in person for now. So that's the hand you're dealt. So it's like, okay, well, what do we do? Oh, pivot. So virtual church, online church, and, I'm not familiar with all the different pivots that they made, but they had some pretty profound pivots. And so I want you to think about what's the pivot that you can make right now? What's the sales pivot that you can make? The other thing he said, which I loved, and I never heard it explained quite like this, but he used the word become. He said, Eric, it's not about who you are right now. It's who you can become. So this was my son here. All right. And then this is what he became. Now, at the end of his sophomore year, my son decided that basketball it wasn't for him anymore. Probably somewhat common, kids play a sport and they don't want to do it anymore. If my son had continued to work on his skills, he would have become even better. And so I got this when I was 28 years old and I started my training company. And I said, I want to become an international trainer. I want to become the best in the world at what I do. Now, whether I become, quote unquote, the best in the world, it's not about that. It's about striving to continue to get better. Because here's what's predictable. I'm better today than I was a month ago. And a month from now, I'm going to be even better. And assuming I'm still alive, a year from now, I'm going to be even better. 10 years from now, I'm going to be even better. I plan on doing this work for another 26 years. And it's predictable that I'm going to get better because I have a mindset of doing this. And it's all about what Pastor Ray said. It's all about what you can become and what you can become in your marriage. What can you become in your faith? What can you become as a parent? You can let go of anger. You can learn to forgive. You can become a great prospector. You can become great at referrals. And this is what my life's about. My life is about helping people elevate themselves to become the best version of themselves. That's what this conversation is about. And that's why I'm so glad you're here to hear this message, because maybe it'll reach you in a way where you go, wow, I came to that Thrive conference and I'm so glad I listened to that gentleman, Eric, at the Breakout. I had never heard of him before. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but somehow, some way you're here. And maybe there's something that I say that causes you to see yourself at an even higher level. For me to mirror the greatness that exists inside of you, where you go, wow, I never thought about becoming great at prospecting. Wow, I never thought about becoming great at referrals. I never thought about becoming great at Facebook or social media. I always thought, well, I'm too old for that. But the truth of the matter is, just like my son, you can get better at anything. You can get better, you can become good, you can become great. And if you really want it, in many cases, you can master it. So I want to talk to you about my sales model. It's 3 steps. And the way I teach, I'm a systems sales trainer. So step 1, sales model. Step 2, sales mountain. Step 3, sales script. So let me explain this a little deeper. Sales model refers to the lead comes in, and then what, and then what, and then what. So this is a picture representation of what I call a one-call close. And that's just sales jargon, meaning you're going to ask for the order, at the end of the presentation. The Girl Scouts selling Girl Scout cookies, right? You walk up, they've got their booth in front of Safeway. Hi, my name's Julie. We're here selling Girl Scout cookies. Would you like to buy some Girl Scout cookies? That's a one call close. Little Julie does not say to you, hi, I'm Julie, and here's my business card. There's a website on there, girlscoutcookies.com/Julie. Do me a favor when you get home tonight, buy some cookies, right? She doesn't do that. She doesn't do that because that wouldn't work. It's a one call close. This is a one call, two call close. That means you meet with a prospect, then you book a second appointment, you meet with them a second time, and then that's where you're going to ask for the order. One call, two call, three call close. Meet with them a second time, meet with them a third time, ask for the order. So if I was coaching you, I'd ask you, what's your sales model? How many times do you meet with a prospect before you ask them to buy from you? Because it's important to know that, because that influences steps 2 and step 3 in my methodology. So step 2 is, let me go back here, sales model. I just taught you how many times you meet with the prospect before you ask him to buy from you. Sales Mountain, this is Sales Mountain now, it's the outline. It's the outline of your presentation. So what does that mean? That means that when you go and meet with a prospect, I want you to have an outline of all the key points you want to cover in the order that you're going to cover them in. In other words, you're going to go in with a plan. Many people go in and they wing it. Always remember that when you wing it, you get wing it results. When you wing it, you get wing it results. So right now, you're on my Zoom training. I have an outline. It's my PowerPoint slides. So I'm not winging it. I'm not just here off the cuff. Why? Because your time's too valuable for that, right? I need, as the professional, I got to show up prepared, right? I got to show up with a plan, because this may be the only time that I ever get to spend with you in our lifetime. If you didn't ever come back to one of my other trainings, this is it. I got you for 45 minutes to have the impact. So I need to come prepared. So what I teach is Sales Mountain, and what's on the screen there says lead generation. I'm reading from the bottom left up, appointment setting, trust and rapport, identify customer needs, share the benefits, close. In other words, that's an outline. So what you would do in creating your own customized Sales Mountain is you would ask yourself, what are the key points I need to cover in the order that I need to cover them in? So you would go in with a plan when you present. The third part is the sales script. And the script is where each outline point has its own mini script. Each outline point has its own mini script. Now I'm limited in time today for how much time I've got with you guys. I have a couple freebies for you. So one freebie is I wrote 2 books this thick. This one is on step 3, scripting. I want to give you the PDF of it for free. And then steps 1 and 2, I have another book like this thick, called The System, and I'd love to give you that for free. So you guys can just shoot me an email. My email address, it's eric@ericlofholm.com. And you can see Eric Lofholm on the screen on my PowerPoint slides. Just shoot me an email, eric@ericlofholm.com. Hey, Eric, I was on the Thrive training, and I'd love to get those free PDFs that you're giving away. All right, continuing on. Be your number one cheerleader. So in my pursuit of success, in my pursuit of making more money, becoming more successful in sales, becoming more successful in business, I had to learn to think differently. And back when I was a cook at McDonald's and was floundering in community college, I had very low self-esteem. And I didn't believe in myself. And so we all talk to ourselves. We talk to ourselves at up to 500 words a minute. And maybe you've never thought of it like that, but just start noticing yourself. Notice your self-talk, especially when you fall short on a goal, right? You go deliver a sales presentation and they don't buy, and you're walking back to your car or you're finished up your phone call. Notice, what do you say to yourself? And so there's a Netflix movie out, which is, it's called Tyson. And a lot of profanity in there. So if you don't really like profanity, then that's not the movie for you. But I'll tell you what I think is valuable about the movie. Mike Tyson, the boxer. Mike Tyson was a street thug. And he was taken in by a guy named Customato, who became his mentor. And Customato would say things to Tyson like this: "You're fast, you're quick, your punches are devastating, you're going to be heavyweight champion of the world." And that's how Cuss would talk to Tyson. And Tyson's like, "This guy's crazy. I'm a street thug. What are you talking about? You're fast, you're quick, your punches are devastating, you're going to be heavyweight champion of the world." And then Tyson became heavyweight champion of the world. And if it wasn't for Customato, that never would have happened. So what I learned, the way to build my self-confidence and my self-esteem was to be my number one cheerleader. And at the beginning of the class today, if you were on at the beginning, I said, if you're right-handed, take your right hand. If you're left-handed, take your left hand. Pat yourself on the back and tell yourself, great job for being in class today. And the reason why I had you do that is so you could acknowledge something positive by being in class that you did. And so throughout the day, I'll acknowledge myself. I'll be like, Eric, great job for this, great job for that. And if I fall short on making a sale, I have another mindset, which I'm going to teach you guys in a little bit, that's helped me deal with rejection. Help me deal with when I prospect and I get a no. Help me deal with when I reach out and ask for the order and I get a no. What you make things mean in your mind is very important. And I was talking to a woman today, and she's a coaching client, and she was supposed to get some things done for our call today, and she didn't get it done. And so she came to the call, and she was kind of beating herself up. And she was giving me the reasons why she hadn't got it done. And her father is very ill right now. And he's having to have chemo every day for like 3 weeks, something like that. And she's the main caretaker for her father. And obviously, it's weighing on her heart, right? Because it's her father. And it's a commitment because she's got to take him every day. So she doesn't have as much time as she'd normally have. And then she was beating herself up for not accomplishing these things under her to-do list. And I was teaching her about being empathetic to herself and having compassion for herself. I said, it's not like you're sitting around watching Netflix. You're still being productive, but you're not getting these to-do items done, but you're taking care of your father, and it's what you need to do right now. But see, she had negative feelings about not getting the to-do list items done, because I think a lot of us, we get programmed when we're young to be hard on ourselves if we don't achieve, if we don't get the grade, if we don't make the sale, if we didn't get the thing done. Instead of recognizing all the positive that we're doing, we tend to go to where am I falling short? So I like to acknowledge, and I like to teach to be the number one cheerleader. So what I want to do now, I do want to do some Q&A, but I'm going to jump ahead of my slides so we have some time for Q&A. And I want to cover this here because this is really, really important. And this is how I built an international training company from scratch, is prospecting. And I have a mindset on how I got myself to do all this prospecting. What's great about prospecting is we can reach out to anybody and we can make requests, right? Like I told you, I had a webinar that I did, and Pastor Ray was one of the guest speakers. That was because of prospecting. I reached out to the church and I excuse me, I asked if he would be able to speak, and all the speakers that spoke at my event, that's what I did. I reached out to a gentleman who was the #1 real estate agent in the nation one year. And I didn't have a speaker budget to pay for these incredible speakers. So I was asking him essentially to do it as a favor. Well, anything I want to go and create, I can go swing the bat by prospecting for it. Most people in business agree that they should be doing more prospecting. The number one reason why people don't do more prospecting, if they think that they should, is fear of rejection. Fear of rejection. And so I want to walk you through a mindset that could change everything for you. The rhythm of prospecting is no, 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 yes. And what that means is I reach out to somebody to book an appointment and they say no. And then I reach out to another person and they say no. And I reach out to another person and then they say no. And then I reach out to another person and they say yes. So it's no, 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 no. Yes, that's how it happens in the real world, right? So if I'm fearing rejection, look at the screen. Most of the time, they're going to say no. So your quote unquote fear is going to be realized all day long. So what I figured out was if I look at it in a fearful way, I just won't do it because it's no, 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 yes. So my mindset became no's are no big deal. No's are no big deal. So when I reach out and somebody says no, it's no big deal. Just part of the rhythm of prospecting. But then I learned this, and this is gold here. I win no matter what. So here's what it means. If I'm going to reach out to 10 people to prospect today, and I reach out to 10, and out of those 10, maybe I'm sending a message over Facebook or an email or text, I'm calling them. Out of 10, 3 of them ignore me. Like they don't even acknowledge that I contact them. And let's say 7 tell me no. So I reached out to 10, 3 ignore, and 7 no's. In my brain, I win because I reached out to 10 people. So reaching out creates the victory. The activity creates the victory. Now, if I'm booking appointments, if I reach out to 10 and I book 1 appointment, then I double 1. I won for the prospecting, and then the booking appointment, I double win. Now, let's say I want to reach out to 10, but I only reach out to 7. So in school, that would be 70%. That'd be a C. Okay, Eric, what's your mindset now? You were supposed to reach out to 10, but you only reached out to 7, 70%. Remember, I win no matter what. So I acknowledge the 7. Even if I go over 7, even though I only did 7, I was supposed to do 10. Okay, Eric, let's say you do 5. That'd be an F in school. I win no matter what. So Eric, great job. You go, Eric, how can you say great job for 5? Because I did 5. Because I'm more likely to keep consistent with it. If I do 5 and I'm supposed to do 10, I go, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. I should have done 10. Now it's a negative. Now I'm beating myself. I don't want to do that. I win no matter what. Now, if I go run a sales call, I'm trying to sell somebody something. So I'm delivering a sales presentation. I run the sales presentation, I win. They don't buy from me, I still win. If I run the sales presentation and they buy, I double win. So I win for the activity, I double win for the result. Now, if I prospect 0, I'm supposed to do 10, I prospect 0, it's neutral. I don't beat myself up. It's neutral. So it's either neutral or I win. Now, if you start thinking like this, here's what I'll tell you. I'm a college dropout. I'm a former cook at McDonald's. As I'm speaking to you right now, I have extremely high self-confidence. I have a tremendous belief in myself. Not an arrogant thing. It's not about being cocky. It's about believing in me, having confidence in me. And that makes a huge difference in me living fully self-expressed, going for my goals and dreams, and going out there and making it happen. And so if any of you have negative thoughts about prospecting or you have fear around prospecting, I love for you to try out my way of thinking here because I think it could really, really make a difference for you. So what I want to do now in our remaining time, I'd love to do some Q&A. So here's what I'd love you to share in the chat. If you want to share Any takeaways? Anything that I shared, you're like, wow, that was a good one. I'm going to do that one. I'd love to hear that. And if you have any questions about prospecting, about my sales process, anything that you think that I could help you with. And so if you want to just type into the chat, if anybody has any questions, and we can do some Q&A. So fantastic. Anybody have anything that they'd like to share tonight? Raise your hand if you guys learned something. Anybody learned something tonight? Awesome. Okay, what was the neutral phrase? It's literally just that simple. It's neutral versus, oh man, I'm such an idiot. I never follow through. I can't get myself to do the prospecting. We have that negative self-talk. It's just neutral. It's not denial. I'm not pretending I did something that I didn't do. So I'm not in denial, but I'm not going to add on to it and call myself an idiot or a loser. All right. Eric, if you do 5 out of the goal of 10, I'm conditioning my mind not to reach my goal. That's a great question, and it's something for you to try out for yourself. Here's something to think about. Some of you can relate with this if you've ever gone on a diet before, all right? So you go on this diet, and the first day you do great. You're like, I'm not going to eat whatever you say you're not going to eat. And the second day you do great. And the third day, you're like, oh man, I'm gonna have that chocolate cake. I've been so good. I'm gonna reward myself with this chocolate cake. And then you beat yourself up over that piece of chocolate cake. You're like, oh man, it's only 3 days. I couldn't even follow through on the diet. Okay, you get back on track. And then a couple days later, you go off the diet again. And maybe there's the negative self-talk. And what might happen for many people is they go, you know what, forget the diet. And the reason why is nobody likes a bully. And so we don't want to go through our life beating ourselves up over, I can't follow through on the diet. So I want you to try out what I'm saying. Try out your own mindset and try it for yourself, right? It's not like my answer is the only answer or the right answer. My answer is right for me, and you can either model mine, or there's a hybrid of it, or you can like, I'm gonna throw that one out the window. I don't like that one. Okay. This person says, I win no matter what. You know what? That has been such a valuable mindset for me, for my confidence and for my self-esteem. Eric, I appreciate the thought about success is making the 10 calls rather than focusing on how many people said yes. What was the name of the Netflix documentary you shared about at the beginning? So that one's called The Pharmacist. And this guy, he's just a regular guy, regular pharmacist. And like I said, he took on Purdue Pharma. You'll watch this. It is so good. And this guy's so extraordinary that they did a Netflix documentary about him, and I'm talking about him right now. That's how good it is. So it's a little dark because we're dealing with drug addiction and the culture of drug addiction. But the story of what a hero this man is, man, I got inspired by watching. So it's called The Pharmacist. All right. Have you adapted your prospecting during the COVID period? Not really. Kind of business as usual. Most of my personal prospecting, I do electronically. So I'm big on direct message over LinkedIn, Facebook, text, email. Those are the main ways that I prospect, because I don't really like the rejection on the phone. So I would rather just do it electronically. And I found that to be very effective. Eric, how often do you circle back with the prospects? It's always hard walking the line of being persistent and not being annoying. That's a great point, and it's something that we all deal with. And so the way I do it is I'm politely persistent, and I reach out. If somebody was being politely persistent with me, how would I want them to, they're just doing their job, right? They're talking to you about putting solar on my roof and they're prospecting me. The solar prospector is just doing their job. So if that person was really committed to earning my solar business, how often would they prospect me? And that's just kind of my rule of thumb, is to be politely persistent, always maintain rapport, and do it the way I would want somebody to prospect to me. That's how I think about it. What are your top tips for building trust quickly? That is a great question. And that's the very first thing that we want to do when we're in the sales process. And probably the fastest way to do it is to find common ground. So I had a 3-way introduction the other day call with a guy named Brandon. Very first time we ever spoke. And my friend Meg introduced me to Brandon and said, Brandon, meet Eric, Eric, meet Brandon. I encourage you guys to connect. So I got on the phone with Brandon, and Brandon lives in Reno, Nevada. So I started off the call, hey, Brandon, I used to live in Reno. I got married in Reno. And we had this whole conversation about Reno. And then he was telling me about how he's buying a house and selling a house. And I got him talking about his favorite subject, which is himself. So getting people talking about themselves and finding common ground. So I have an 18-year-old son. I have a 15-year-old daughter. I have a 13 and 14-year-old stepdaughter. So I live with my stepdaughters, my wife, and my daughter. My 18-year-old has moved out. So maybe you have stepkids, or maybe there's some similarity in there. Maybe you go to Bayside, or maybe you live in Placer County, or maybe you're in sales, or maybe you've written a book. So we're looking for common ground and get people talking about themselves. What is one of your favorite traits in other salespeople? I love people that are goal-oriented, people that are committed, people that love to learn, like you guys. I love to learn. I love to attend classes like this. You know, us as salespeople, man, it takes courage. My sister's a nurse, and if she's having a bad day, but she goes to work, she gets paid, right? The same as if she's having a good day. But if we're having a bad day, or we don't make any sales, we don't get paid at all. So having courage to work on commission, I have tremendous respect for that. And so those are some of the things that I love about us fellow salespeople. All right, Eric, the visual system is helpful. The sales mountain, how to build trust on cold or warm calls. Start off with the intention that you're going to build trust and rapport. When people are cold towards you or standoffish, in most cases, it has nothing to do with you, unless you goofed up in your presentation. Here's a quick example. When I met my father-in-law, so I've been married twice. I'm with my second wife. Heather's my wife now that I'm married to currently. And when I met Heather's dad, he was very standoffish with me. And he didn't have any reason to be because of me, because he didn't even know me. So he was standoffish with me because of some man in my wife's previous relationship. Something about that. Something was going on that had nothing to do with me. And so when he was kind of cold towards me, my mindset was, I'll win him over. He's going to love me. And that was my mindset. Even though he was like this, I didn't take that personal. So when people are like this with you, in most cases, unless you've done something to them, it has nothing to do with you. So the mindset, you set the intention, I will win this person over. I will get in rapport. I'll find common ground. I'll find a way that we can connect. And it's out of your beingness, your way of showing up, that is going to create that trust and rapport. All right. What was the most recent thing you learned that changed your sales approach? What was the most recent thing that you learned that changed your sales? It probably has to do with virtual selling. So, right now we're connecting in a virtual format. When I started my training career, Zoom didn't exist, webinars didn't exist, so we did everything in person. And so I'm still, even though I do a lot of virtual selling now, I'm still pivoting to getting comfortable with this way of communicating, video communication. The first time I was invited on a Zoom, I didn't want the camera on. I wanted, you could turn the camera off. Like right now, if I come down here and I hit stop video, right now you can't see me. I just wanted to hide. I wanted to be here, but I didn't want you to see me. because it was uncomfortable because it was new. And so that's really been my pivot, is incorporating in social media. I have a social media group where we do daily motivation. I do a daily Facebook Live. If any of you are on Facebook and you're into that kind of thing, you can email me, eric@ericlofholm.com. I'll invite you to my Facebook group. I had to get used to engaging with people, interacting with them over social media, over webinar, and over Zoom. So that was the big thing that I had to learn. All right, what are you learning? Okay, expanding. So what are you learning about how you need to modify your approach virtually? It's really about leveraging technology. So I do a daily podcast, and it's a conference call, and people call into this call, and then we put it up on iTunes. And so I thought to myself, if I'm doing this daily call, right? So I'm doing the call. What if I put a video like right now I'm on video. So imagine instead of being on Zoom with you guys, I'm on my daily call, and this Zoom is a Facebook Live. And I thought to myself, I wonder what would happen if I killed two birds with one stone. What if I integrated both Facebook Live and the conference call? Today we had over 200 views on the Facebook Live, which more than doubled the attendance of the people experiencing the call. What's the point of that? The point is that if you will open up your thinking around technology, okay, like this class you're in with me right now, I heard, and I haven't seen the stats, but I heard like at one point over 90,000 people were registered, and maybe it went way over 100,000, I don't know, but a huge amount of people registered for this thing, right? Well, as a paid class at Bayside Church, they would have sold, 3,000-4,000 tickets, whatever it is. So now you massively increase it by offering it virtually. And so it's challenging. It can be challenging to open up your thinking, because I'm 49. If you're my age or older, like we're so used to face-to-face and phone sales, and to pivot and think differently and look to how to leverage technology. So I'm starting to do Facebook ads, and there's going to be a day when I'll probably generate more leads from Facebook ads than from traditional sales methods. So that's integrating and embracing technology into my sales process. Fantastic. Well, you guys had some incredible questions. Thank you guys for asking all those questions. And I think we've answered them all. It was tremendous to be with all of you. Again, I acknowledge you for coming and investing this time for yourself, to better yourself in this wonderful conference. My hope is you're glad you came to today's session, and most importantly, that you learned something, because that was the whole reason for this. So with that, Nikki, I'll turn it over to you. I don't know if there's anything else that you need to share before we wrap up, or what people are supposed to do next, but that'll wrap up my training.
Yep. Do you want to give your email one more time, just in case people?
Sure, I'll type it into the message here. We'll
into the chat. That's perfect.
Yeah, and if any of you want to connect with me, I just put it in the chat there, eric@ericlofholm.com. Very approachable. Love to connect with any of you if you'd like to. I have those great freebies for you guys. So if you want to get in touch, let me know. And Erlene says, thank you. This was a valuable session. Awesome. That was the whole point. Okay, guys. Have a great rest of your conference.
Yep. And I'll just remind you guys that all of the breakouts were recorded. So if you wanted to go to more than one, you can go on Thrive on Demand. And then the conference starts tomorrow again in the morning. So I hope you guys enjoyed it.